Sunday on Carte Blanche. UFOs in South Africa? We bring you exclusive footage of the first verified visual material of UFOs in the Karoo.
They've seen them, they've filmed them, but not everybody believes them. We're talking about a family living in the Karoo who claim to have sighted a UFO.
Waar sal 'n mens dit ook nou beter kan sien as in die skoon lig van die Karoo? Maar voor julle lag, laat Manu die storie vertel.
It was late December 1998. The children were playing in the street in this quiet Graaff-Reinet suburb. Jacques Loubser was indoors, editing the video footage he'd shot over Christmas, when one of the children, having seen something unusual in the sky, ran inside in a hurry. Jacques grabbed his video camera and ran outside.
Kijk dan toe, Jacques. Dis 'n oomblik. Ek gaan agter die wolke. Waar die fok is die goed nou? Hier voor my, Jacques, hier.
And I started filming the minute I came out and I saw these objects. As I'm familiar with aeroplanes, I immediately realized that these weren't conventional aircraft. The unfortunate part of my camera is that it's got automatic focus. And this was searching to find a point to focus on. Even niks af nie.
Maar hy sal net nie afneem, is te ver. Kyk, as vandag gaan hy na die ander een toe knas. Okay, kom hier. Ek het gesien. Wat is dit? Dis UFO's. Bullshit.
When the kid said UFO, you said bullshit.
Yes, well, I didn't believe it at first, and it came out, and then when I saw it, I realized that it was something strange.
Ja, hier kom nog. Kijk je die helder hier niet achter.
Wow, just see fire.
En het lijkt zo. Kijk, hier val je.
Wow.
Hier.
Je zou net hier
kom uit.
I thought the UFOs because there couldn't be something else.
Were you scared?
No, not really excited.
Paul, het jou ooit gesien like die UFO?
Soos hy doen.
It's unexplainable. Anything, it could be anything.
I just see a little white thing in the sky that says to other kleren.
The Loubsers counted 8 to 10 triangular objects, shiny gold in color, switching to red and blue when stationary. They were moving in a northerly direction, and Jacques managed to capture 5 minutes on video. But being a well-respected businessman from an established family in Graaff-Reinet, Jacques feared his sighting would be laughed off as a flight of fancy, and so he kept the footage locked away for nearly a month.
So my brother in Polish said, look, what about the footage? And I said, well, what about it? I don't want to make a fool of myself. And he said, well, give it to the press, see what they can do with it.
The flashing lights of unidentified objects soon became the glaring light of press attention. But Jacques needed to verify that his UFOs were not just the work of some fun-seeking prankster. That's no flying saucer, it's a flying hubcap. It's one of the methods that's been used for decades to fool the public. But how do you tell a flying hubcap from the real thing? UFO investigators have for many years been trying to distinguish the real thing from hoaxes or even misinterpretations of natural phenomena. In South Africa, the Port Elizabeth-based Evaluation Center for UFO Reports, or EQ4, has dedicated itself to evaluate and document UFO sightings. Research coordinator Noel Herbert took on Jacques' case. Noel, you're quite happy to let us use your name, but you don't want your face to appear on television. Why?
I feel that if people can recognize me, certain doors will close. If we visit people, possible witnesses, that we would be identified, and that infringes on the confidentiality that we have between ourselves and witnesses. We do respect that because of the negative impact that it can have on people when they do report sightings.
There were a few things that the investigators had to establish, whether the objects seen over Graaff-Reinet were aircraft, paragliders or weather balloons. They established that there were no paragliders or weather balloons on that day and no aircraft flying overhead at that time. After interviewing the Loubsers, Noel sent Jacques' footage away for analysis to Australia and locally to Glenn Mayer, photography lecturer at Port Elizabeth Technikon. Glenn used a state-of-the-art digital editing suite to examine the pictures.
So you got the original footage. What did you do with that?
What I did, Mano, was I digitized the footage onto our hard drive at a broadcast resolution, and then as we scrolled through it, and watched it, you can see
by stepping backwards and forwards frame by frame, we could identify streaks of light, which is indicating a motion trail, you know, as if something is moving quite fast. It could either be the light or the camera moving in this situation because there's no reference point.
From the original footage, Glenn enhanced the color contrast to see if the shapes could be rendered any clearer. He came up with very interesting results.
As you can see, if you look at the monitor, the one light source remains static and you get lateral motion across the frame from the other light source as it moves towards it. When it gets quite close, the static light source actually disappears from one frame to the next.
The one static light with the second moving rapidly towards it proves that the motion was not caused by a camera movement. No known conventional aircraft or natural phenomenon can vanish without a trace in a 25th of a second. Margaret Johnson, another resident of Graaff-Reinet, came to the fore after reading about Jacques' sighting in the local paper. She claims to have seen a similar inexplicable flying craft while out on an evening stroll.
First, I thought it was a skydiver, but then I realized it was not. You know, it didn't have the little man sort of dangling, and it was quite different. It was curved like that, and quite large. It was quite large. It was striped. It had, I can still see it, red, orange, green, blue, and white stripes coming down this way.
And what did you think it was?
Well, I thought it was a UFO. Oh, I knew it was something from the outer space, as it were, but I didn't say anything to anybody. I thought, well, people would just laugh, say, silly old woman, you know, imagining things or something, and I kept quiet until I read the article about Chuck, and that was the same night as he had seen his.
A lot of reports have come out of the Karoo area, and when you think that it is in fact a low population concentration, you would not expect many UFO reports to come from there. One can only imagine that the terrain is very similar to, for instance, the Roswell areas in the United States.
A digital camera can capture significantly more visual information than the naked eye can process. This clip shows an object flying right to left across your screen. But enhance the picture and slow it down, and you find the object is not completely unidentifiable after all.
And we saw this object flying across here, and it sort of comes over. There's a still, I'm going step by step, frame by frame, and as it goes out of the frame here, behind this beam, and out down here. Later on it reappears and it flies this way. That, as far as I can say, is probably something like a bird flying past. It seems to be relatively far closer to the structure that's visible in the trees, and there also seems to be some sense of wings visible. I'll step back to show you. There seems to be an idea of a solid object with wings in motion.
Independent Australian UFO researcher Barry Taylor further enhanced the images with a highly specialized computer program and was able to isolate still frames of each light source. He analyzed the speed, shape, and illumination profile of each object. Noel explains the computer pictures Barry Taylor sent back.
The outline of the object itself is this pale blue section here. That is the outline of the solid object. Now you can see that it is certainly wider than it is high, indicating a flattish shape, which could be a disc slightly on edge. Okay. Then you've got a section over the top here which is slightly rounded, which you don't see on this side. This white area here is only brilliance. It is highly luminescent, self-luminescent, not a reflection from the sun. The sun is in fact on the wrong side. If there was a reflection from this object, it would be off the top here. You're seeing the object now.
In addition to physical shape, another image shows how the camera captures electromagnetic fields surrounding the vessel.
What is insignificant here is that the sky detail has been brought back, yet you do not see any wings, you don't see any fuselage sections or anything. The object is very limited in that area there. The radiation or the electromagnetic radiation that one sees is, again, limited to just around the object. During his analysis of these objects, Barry Taylor was able to draw a very strong similarity between these objects and objects that had just been filmed in Australia. They were virtually identical.
Based on his analysis, Taylor estimated the objects were at an altitude of 25 to 30,000 feet. He said they appeared to be 8 feet in diameter and traveling between 200 to 600 miles per hour. But is there any possibility that this video could have been fabricated?
Ik ben nou helemaal weg. Ik ben als niks. I don't believe this.
We were going to produce a tape for purposes of entertainment or faking. We'd probably make a far more realistic image on the tape. I think that the soundtrack, coupled with the innocence of the camera work, shows that it is an amateur filming.
Even though the objects over Graaff-Reinet have been declared UFOs, it does not necessarily mean that they are alien spacecraft. So what are they, and where have they come from? We can only speculate.
UFO stands simply for that, unidentified flying object. We do know that certain laboratories in the States and in certain other places are dealing with advanced technology. They are testing crafts that have the basic saucer shape. Why they're doing that, where that technology comes from, is debatable. Therefore, granted that we're dealing with a disc-shaped object at high altitude, capable of unconventional flight pattern, but that doesn't mean it's an alien spacecraft. It could be, but it doesn't have to be.